It's been 1 year since the United States Department of Justice investigation into the Cleveland Police Department.
The Cleveland Division of Public Police engages in a pattern and practice of using excessive force.
The final report laying out a pattern of excessive force, inadequate training, ineffective policies, and poor community engagement. And that's where we began. For the past year, our year-long investigation went beyond that DOJ report, revealing the extent of failed patterns and practices.
Candidly, this program was brought to me in 95 and 96 when I was in charge, and I didn't do it.
Why?
Because it was costing overtime.
How police discipline went unchecked for years.
Somebody with alcohol and drug history, that person should not be working as a police officer.
They still are.
And who was responsible for failed training programs.
So who has the responsibility for that?
Well, the chief has a responsibility for that.
And you accept that?
It's an investigation that traveled from New York to Detroit,
All I can say is Cleveland, hang in there.
Memphis, Tennessee to Durham, North Carolina.
They made a real big difference because I was struggling.
And before airing, it prompted significant change, including a major overhaul of police training, creation of a citizens review committee, and first ever board to oversee how Cleveland police deal with the mentally ill.
We've changed that philosophy from a warrior community to a guardian community.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Leon Bibb, along with Danita Harris and Chris Flanagan. 1 year ago this week, the U.S. Department of Justice released its report into the Cleveland Police Department.
It found a series of systemic problems that began at the top with the leaders who set policy, then trickled down to the officers on the streets.
But before we move forward, we must take a look back. So how did we get to this point? And why did the Department of Justice begin looking at the police department in the first place? We begin with a night in late November 2012 and a police chase that left 2 unarmed people dead in the Cleveland Police Department on the national stage. 62 police vehicles, 137 shots fired into one car. When the frenzy was over, Melissa Williams and Timothy Russell dead. They were unarmed. 3 years later, 63 officers and 12 supervisors have been disciplined. Just one fired. He got his job back. 6 officers were indicted, but only 1 has gone to trial. Michael Brelo was found not guilty of voluntary manslaughter and remains on the force. The 13 officers who shot into that car still awaiting discipline.
This is the United States of America, is it not?
Then there was Tamir Rice. On November 22nd, 2014, just days before the DOJ report was made public, the 12-year-old was shot and killed by Cleveland police.
My son was a baby, you know, innocent, too young to even understand what's going on.
But it was the death of Tanisha Anderson that almost went unnoticed, and her death, more than the others, may serve to underscore the greatest failings at the highest levels of the Cleveland Police Department.
When I lay down at night, that's all I see. That's all I hear.
Suffering from mental illness, Tanisha died in the custody of Cleveland police after her family simply called for help.
We begin our investigation tonight with the mentally ill and how Cleveland police respond to calls for help. Chief Investigator Ron Regan has been digging for answers to those questions for more than a year since Tanisha Anderson, who was bipolar and schizophrenic, died. And Ron uncovered critical failures in one of Cleveland's major training programs.
There's a program here in Cleveland that equips police with crisis intervention skills, but our investigation found it was not being implemented as it should be. And when it fails, it puts both police and the mentally ill at risk.
Help for Tanisha. I just want to get help for my daughter.
Tanisha Anderson's mother remembers the family's call for help.
What type of mental illness does she suffer from?
Bipolar schizophrenia.
Okay, is she taking her medication?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, not working. Tanisha was not just my daughter, she was my friend. She was my confidant. She was my world. And it changed my world.
Her daughter was bipolar and schizophrenic. Family members described her condition in detail to dispatchers.
She just came home from a mental asylum.
Cleveland police officer Scott Aldridge responded. This certificate shows Aldridge was trained how to successfully avoid violent and potentially deadly confrontations. Instead, police say Anderson began actively resisting and kicking at officers while handcuffed and being placed in the cruiser's back seat. A medical examiner report found she died from sudden death associated with physical restraint.
Do you feel that help was provided in any way?
No. No, it was not provided in any way. She did not get the help she needed.
Tanisha Anderson's death raises serious questions into just how effectively Cleveland's crisis intervention teams function and how it's carried out within the Cleveland Police Department. How was that handled?
Poorly.
Michael Baskin oversees the National Alliance for Mental Illness in Cleveland.
It would seem that if she was expressing symptoms, which I understand she was, I wasn't at the scene so I don't know, then putting her in a hold and putting her on the ground doesn't seem like a fit for someone who may be experiencing a tremendous amount of anxiety. As I understand, she was diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Records show both Aldridge and his partner are facing potential discipline for failing to call for an ambulance in a timely fashion when Anderson was in need of medical assistance.
They're human beings. They're a person, and they should be treated like anyone else. Just because they have a problem or a mental illness doesn't make them less of a person.
Tammy Mays.
Nearly 500 Cleveland police officers have completed crisis training since the program began 10 years ago, a program launched by then Police Chief Michael McGrath. At the same time, the department was facing cutbacks and layoffs. Today, McGrath is Cleveland's public safety director.
When I did become chief of the Division of Police, I revamped the whole training scenario.
But our investigation uncovered key failures in Cleveland's program, including failing to even meet with one of Cleveland's leading advocacy groups for the mentally ill.
How many times a year does the Cleveland Police Department meet with your group on a regular basis?
Well, they don't meet with us, NAMI, at all.
How many times would you say you met on a monthly basis with, let's say, Michael Baskin?
Oh, gosh. I couldn't say.
Every month? Every other month?
No, I honestly couldn't say.
This Department of Justice report raises serious questions about how well crisis training has been implemented within the department. Experts we spoke with told us when that fails, it puts both the mentally ill and police at risk.
What does this report
I
suggest?
think it says that there needs to be more interactive with community engagement, and it needs to be real.
Candidly, this program was brought to me in 95 and 96 when I was in charge, and I didn't do it.
Why?
Because it was costing overtime.
He's the former Cleveland police chief and public safety director who should have implemented the changes but didn't.
So what you're doing is incredibly valuable to show a system as it is today, and it's going to be broken in a number of parts, or not even working in some parts.
Later in this investigation, you'll hear why there are failures in this program.
And also why nationally recognized experts question how Cleveland's training has been run.
Does the officers or the rank and file, do they see themselves as being part of that engagement? And that's ownership. That is ownership.